Have you gotten your tickets to So Mote That Con yet? If you haven't, you still have time to book your spot for our third annual live virtual conference on living as a witch in today's world. You can join us on October 14th and 15th for workshops by some of our most popular guests, rituals with the TWL crew, and a whole mess of raffle prizes. Plus, we have a live keynote with Laurell K. Hamilton, the New York Times best-selling author of the Anita Blake Vampire series. Other presenters include Phyllis Karat, Diana Rajchel, and our very own Courtney, and many, many more. We'll be talking everything from hexing to hoodoo for liberation to the goddess Freya to making magical spaces accessible. Can't make it on the day of the event? Don't worry, because everything will be recorded and sent to all registrants after the event. So get your tickets ASAP at thatwitchlife.com, and we will see you on October 14th and 15th.
The path of the witch is so unique.
The gift of witchcraft.
I was able to see, hear, and communicate with
A
spirits.
very personal relationship between a person and spirit. Carnal lust and fun things like that.
Working with different energies, the spirits, and communicating.
Creating magic.
Powerful ritual and powerful spell.
She's actually sticking me in the cold.
The role of the witch is to make change.
Blessed be, y'all.
Blessed be.
People ask me like, okay, I'm a witch, and I don't know what to do.
20 years ago, 3 young friends realized they were witches.
They scattered to different parts of the world, following magic and spirit.
Now, they're back in their hometown to share what they've learned.
Welcome to That Witch Life podcast, your home for living as a witch in today's world.
3, 2, 1, clap.
Clap.
Oh my God, that was almost good.
That was pretty good.
We almost did it. And
That
for
might
a moment,
be the best.
I just about started to talk, and then I went, wait, I think we do something before I'm supposed to talk. And then all of a sudden you started counting, and I'm like, that's the thing. That's the thing that I always forget. That's the thing that I always forget.
Corey,
So,
leave
yeah.
this in. Leave this in.
Yeah, Corey, you should
I
leave.
remembered.
Corey, leave
I
this in.
remembered.
Our listeners need to understand that, like, we can't do
How difficult I am.
How difficult it is for us
It's
to do
not
a
an act.
very.
It's not an act.
It's not fake.
Okay, so now we're recording. Go ahead, Kanani. Bring it in.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of
Another
That Witch Life
episode.
podcast.
Another episode.
I am so overwhelmed right now. I'm just going to talk like this throughout the entire episode.
You
This
gonna-
is Kanani.
Okay, that's Kanani.
I know. I was like, Kanani, you need to. I was like, you're not saying your name.
I did. I said my name.
You did it.
That's
And
Kanani.
I am Hillary,
And we're the hosts of That Witch Life podcast.
and that's Courtney, and
I
that's
did introduce-
Kanani, and
Yeah.
I'm Hillary.
Oh my God.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I know. I'm all off. I've had a day. It's been a total day. And then I realized work got really crazy, and I had every intention of making spaghetti tonight for the kids and I look up from my laptop and I realize, oh, I need to be recording very, very soon. So there's no time to make dinner. So
Yep,
instead
that
I
was
ran
me
and
too.
got us Taco Bell. And I haven't eaten that in a really long time. And I have to say, I feel like the plastic to almost food product ratio is shifting even more. It felt like it's much like maybe now we're at the like 80% plastic, like 20% food product. I'm not quite sure, but I can already tell that my stomach is like, this is why you don't eat this very often. Like, remember, because I haven't eaten it in forever. And I was like, you know what? I haven't had in a really long time. That's what I'm going to have. And then I ate it and I'm like, oh, that's why I don't eat this
You know what?
anymore.
It's been up to like you have had your vegetable intake has skyrocketed from 0 to at least 4 times this year. You have eaten something green, and that's
Do you
what
want to hear something
happens.
really funny?
Yes.
When my son came home from school to get us, the first thing they do is come home and eat. Well, first he pees, then
Yeah.
they eat. That's what they do the moment they get home.
Of
Bust
course.
open the fridge and just start eating all my food. And my son opened the fridge this afternoon and he goes, there is a lot of vegetables in here, Mom. And I just started laughing. He's like, there's broccoli and salads. Now, to be fair, there's usually lots of salads, but I usually have them in the like drawer, the
Hidden.
crisper drawer. So they're not usually like in your face when you open the fridge. But he's looking, he's like, there is a lot of vegetables. And he goes, there used to just be a lot more candy. And I started laughing because, first of all, the entire cabinet is full of candy, and we've never had candy in the actual fridge. But I just thought it was hilarious that he was startled by the amount of vegetables in our house. And he's not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I got something
It's like,
else.
wait a minute. Oh my God.
Okay.
You have what?
I know.
It's the Magic Ladies. It's a Magic Ladies house. It's like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you guys what I did this week. This is this is one of the times that it's really good for a witch to be married to another witch. I mean, most people are like, oh, if only my partner were on this vein as I am. Think of the magic we could do together. No, when you're a witch and you're married to a witch, most of the time it's arguing over how the circle is going to be cast. And the very rare times you actually decide to do a ritual together, arguing about who forgot to reinforce the wards and that how long ago it was till we reinforced the wards, and then arguing about how badly or not badly the wards need to be reinforced. And then sometimes you forget the different characters in your partner's past life, and they get super irritated because they already explained it to you. And now you have to they have to go through all their past life characters again. And it's just a mess. But this is
I
one
don't
of
even know what to do with that. I don't even know. My brain can't. I'm like looking at this like power charging cable at the top of my desk. Like I could stick that in my eye. Like I bet I could just jam it straight into my eye and make it stop. Like
that is so funny.
But it is
all
true,
I'm looking
though.
at right now is how can I fit it in my eye?
Well, that was the thing. My husband and I first started dating. We were like, oh, the magic we could do together. And we've done some really powerful magic, but a lot of the times we're arguing about like how we're going to do the magic because we both come from very different backgrounds and whether or not the wards need to be done this, that, and the other, and how we're going to do it and what's going to work better and blah, blah, blah. And it's just a mess. But what's really wonderful about being married to a witch, particularly like I usually don't tell my husband when I've done some magic. One of the reasons for it is I'm just waiting for him to notice it, to tell me so that it reinforces what has happened. And I had I can tell this part of it. I can't tell why I did it, but I can tell what I did is that I did a pretty powerful ancestor invocation a couple of weeks ago, and giving gracious thanks that they came through. And it wasn't all that difficult. It was me praying some of the prayers I was taught from my family and then asking for some assistance with something very important, and just saying thank you. And, may you all be at peace, which is something I regularly pray for. May you all be at peace. May you all, whatever suffering you still combines you to this realm, may it be alleviated, and whatever help you can give in the specific issue, would be most grateful. And the next morning I'm making breakfast, and out of the corner of my eye, I think I see a very tall man, very tall. We're talking like Gandalf to Frodo ratio, and I'm Frodo. But it was just like out of the corner of my eye, and I was just like, oh, I must have imagined it. Whatever. I just go on about the day. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting on the couch with the baby, and my husband walks through the living room in the exact same spot where I saw that. And he stops, and he does this spin around. And he goes, I feel like I just walked through a spider web. And I went, oh, yes, I need to let you know. We have some ancestors visiting here. They're very, very old and very, very large. And he's like, yeah, they are. Holy crap. But it was like, because he didn't know I'd done an ancestor invocation. He didn't know I'd seen anything. And he wasn't even in the room when I thought I saw what I saw. So it's not like he's reacting to me doing a double take. It's that, but exactly where I had seen that and wasn't sure if I had seen what I thought I saw, he said he felt that he was walking through a spider web. So that was a pretty cool confirmation. That's not the first time that's happened for us. So that's a piece to give y'all if you have magical partners, that don't always tell them what you're up to, because when they notice it, that is really cool.
I will agree with that, because I remember when I had that house that had all of that energy in it. And I remember that I had never told you because I was still so new in my journey and still kind of not really sure what was going on. I hadn't told you yet that I heard the voices of my children in the house. And the first time you came and you stayed the night, and the next morning you're like, I heard kids playing and laughing last night. Have you ever heard anything like that? And I was just like, what? It was so weird to me because it's not something that I had said to you yet. And so to have you have that same experience was like, it's so validating. Like, even though, and like I said, especially then when I was newer and I was kind of like,
You had a
am I
super
dreaming
muggle
this in the
husband
night?
too.
Like, what's
Super
going
muggle
on?
husband.
Oh yeah. And so, so the funny thing is, I don't know if I've ever told this story, but this was really funny. So that house had just activity constantly. And one of the spirits was, the previous owner who had been unwilling to sell. So the funny thing was we had remodeled so much of the house that she mostly stuck to the parts of the house that we hadn't remodeled because they were the most familiar. So she stayed in what had been, I found out from the realtor later, because I hated that room. There were 2 rooms upstairs and they had slept in the room that I didn't want. And that had been the quote unquote main bedroom. And so she hung out in there. And so that room was always cold and just made me uncomfortable. And I didn't
And that's
like
the
it.
one you made me sleep in. Jesus.
And I did. That is actually the one I made.
It was cold and creepy as hell.
Yes. And I did make her sleep in that, as a matter of fact.
Oh my God.
So what she would do is she would leave that room in the middle of the night and she would stand in my doorway and she would watch me sleep.
Yeah.
And so every night in the middle of the night, I would tap my husband because he didn't believe in any of this or he didn't understand any of this, right? And I tap in the middle of the night and say, I'm comfortable. Will you switch me spaces in bed? And he'd switch me spaces in bed so that he was facing the side of the bed that she was looking at and I wasn't anymore. So this went on for at least a month, right? Every night in the middle of the night, I'm tapping him. I need to switch spaces. He never said anything. And then finally, one day during the day, he's like, just sleep on the side of the bed. Why do you keep making me move? Just sleep on the side of the bed. So I told him what happens. And then we still slept in our normal sides of the bed. And I tapped him in the middle of the night. And I'm like, honey, I need to switch places. And he looks at me. He's like, I don't want her looking at me. I don't want to sleep over there. And he would not switch spaces.
Oh my God.
Gallant. And hence you're no longer married.
After I told him why he wouldn't do it, I'm like, and it was funny because it's in the middle of the night, right? And he's saying, no, I won't trade places with you. And I looked at him and I go, you don't even believe that this is happening. What are you talking about?
God.
You trade places with me. And he's like, but I don't know. I don't know. So he wouldn't. And so from then on, he wouldn't switch places with me anymore, just in case I was right. Yes, and there was this creepy old ghost in the doorway staring at me.
Yeah.
He refused to switch places with me. And so after that, like, if ever there was something like that in the future, I wouldn't tell him. Because then if I needed him to do something, he'd be like, no, what if they get me?
That's the thing. Is like
specifically, he's like,
even the most fervent non-believers have a just in case clause. Where they're like,
exactly.
They're like, I don't believe in spooky things. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in anything like that. But I'm not going to sleep in the haunted asylum, even if there were security and cameras all around and I knew that I were physically safe. I won't sleep in the old sanitarium just in case.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it is true though. It's, and that's most of my, my experience has always been with, with muggle partners and things like that. But I've always had Courtney and I've always had other friends that, picked up on things or that I could call. And so it is funny when like your friend will call you and be like, hey, what just happened here? And they knew, they just knew. And then you have to kind of tell them what's going on because they've already tapped into it. Or like I said, I have relationships with, friends, previous partners where it's like, I know when something happens with them, even though they don't practice, they themselves don't practice any form of magic, but we have that link. And so now I immediately know when things happen in their world. And so, yeah, it is funny. Even like I said, even when they don't believe, there's that level of, but just in case she's right, like
just in case, I don't really want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah, but
yeah, I remember that. I was so mad. I was furious. I was just like, so mad. I'm like, you don't even believe me. What do you mean you won't trade me places?
That needs to go on your Tinder profile. That if you will not trade me places when the creepy old ghost.
If there is a ghost staring at me, your ass better move over in the bed.
And if you won't move over, go ahead and swipe left or right. I don't even know.
Right,
I'm so out of it.
Right.
Swipe away. Swipe away. On to the next. I need somebody who will stand between me and the creepy ghosts watching me sleep. That's what you're.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Yep.
Yes,
exactly.
Please. That's only fair. It's only fair.
And
it's only fair.
Yeah, it's funny.
dated some people that are like, it's been a like wide spectrum. I've dated some people that are like totally like either don't believe or clueless too. I've dated people who are kind of like, yeah, I'm like open, but I'm not sure. And then I've dated people who are like, you know, have some sort of practice of their own. And it's interesting because or people who have, like the last person I dated, like has family members who have magical practices. So like, even though he doesn't necessarily, like they're familiar. So it's not like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, he's like, oh yeah, you sound like my family. But it's funny because, so like we were talking about ancestors, or Courtney was talking about ancestors earlier. And like, when I was in New York, I got a reading from Dakota St. Clair.
Oh, I love Dakota.
Because I love Dakota. And it was funny because it's like nothing like getting called out by your ancestors in a reading. And I won't tell you all the specifics, but I will say that they were like, it's funny because Dakota was like, do you keep an ancestor altar? And I was like, yes. But I knew exactly, like Dakota didn't even have to say anything for me to be like, I've neglected every altar, you know?
Oh yeah. Dakota will read you. Oh my God.
It's rough.
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I've been neglecting my altars. And it was like, and it's, you know, it's the same thing I think I was talking about on a couple episodes ago, or maybe I don't even remember which episode, but like, you know, it's like you get, when you're overwhelmed, or like I was going through some like chronic pain type stuff, like you would think that sometimes you forget that like that's a resource. It becomes a chore sometimes. Like you're like, oh, I don't even like, you just forget that that it's in and of itself is like an act of care for yourself. Like, and that it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't need to go out and like, I mean, it could be simple. You could, you know, give it a nice dust it, give it a nice wipe down, you know, put some fresh water on there, grabs, you know, even I remember, I think, was it Carla that said that I can never remember which practitioner we had on that said that they, like during the pandemic, they normally leave flowers on their altar for their ancestors.
That was Carla. Carla's hardcore.
You know, but Carla was like, you know, I couldn't because like we couldn't go out. So I like drew flowers but like, so there's like ways to be creative, but like, I was like, you know, I need to just sit down and clear it off and get rid of some of the stuff that doesn't need to be on there anymore. Cause the way I have a kind of a cool setup. I found like a piece of furniture, like, a friend was moving, and it was like a vanity basically, where you have like a lower level and two upper levels, like you would see with a vanity with drawers on either side, and then like a little kind of lower section in the middle. So, but it had kind of become, and I used to have it separated out where I'd have like, you know, cause there's 3 different tiers. I'd have like, each tier was a different altar, right? So it was kind of, cause I'm limited on space. So it's like all in one space, but they're their own space. But it had kind of gotten cluttered, and like it was, you know, like my stuff and their stuff was all over the place, and it was intermingling, and it didn't feel good. And so over the weekend, I like just was like, okay, I have a little bit of more energy back. And so I just sat down and was like, I'm just going to do this and simplify it. I'm going to like, it's cluttered. That doesn't feel good. I like smoke cleansed and physically cleansed everything that was on the altar, and then like reset up. And Dakota had recommended, and I didn't think about this, but Dakota was like, I think it'd be cool to have like a delineation between, you know, both sides of ancestors, your maternal and paternal ancestors. And so they now have their own little section on the different sections of this piece of furniture that have their own levels. So it's like, it felt nice. It was interesting because I finished it, and the energy in my space already felt so much better. And it's like, and then I felt dumb for not having done it before. You know, I felt silly for not doing it. You know, I was like, wow, I could have just done this and it would have helped. But I think it's like one of those things where sometimes when we get overwhelmed, we forget about our magical practice because life, you know, and if what I'm saying is, this is a reminder that like, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't have to like, now is not the time to like
be complicated.
redo. No. You don't have to like restructure everything in your life, but like choose one small area that you can that you can focus on, because having that altar be somewhere that now I want to go and sit at has actually helped me a lot, to like lean into my magical practice to help me through what's been a really hard time. And so it's just a reminder that it's okay to simplify it, but don't forget that it's a tool there. And when you're feeling lost, sometimes leaning into that is really helpful.
Well, one of the things that's coming up that I am super excited about that will offer more suggestions and whatnot and witchy tips for people is our So Mote That Con, which is just a few weeks away.
Yes. Oh my God. I can't believe it's back again. It's like,
my God, it came so fast.
Oh, so good.
I'm so
very,
excited.
very excited. We've got some awesome workshops coming up.
Oh, yeah. I'm thrilled. I mean, it's just, I leave. It is so much work to put this on. But this is, I always leave So Mote That Con feeling so energized and refreshed, because just it brings the best people together. And so even though I never feel drained after, this is like the only group project that I can think of where I leave it feeling better than I came. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
because when you start, especially for us, you're always like, I hope this goes well. I hope this goes well. I hope everything works. I hope everything works. And so there's so much just anxiety and nervousness about it. And then as it's going and it becomes its own thing. I think that's part of what is so fun about it is I feel like when we have these cons, especially So Mote That Con, because I feel like because it's longer, people really get to know each other, because you see each other one day in the chat, but then you get to see each other the next day in the chat. So sometimes people will be like, hey, you said something in the chat yesterday, and I just wanted to say, so people just kind of, I almost feel like in the best possible way, the community in the chat just kind of, I don't want to say takes over, but you know what I mean? Just becomes such a huge part of the entire event that they bring so much just life and good questions and comments and suggestions and things like that are happening in the side chats. That it's just, and everyone especially has fun in the chat while the music is playing in between the workshops during the breaks and stuff like that. And you just getting to meet people and watching people meet other people and kind of find, like-minded people within the community, I think is just, it's really fun. Like, we know it's going to happen, but then when you're watching it happening, it's so exciting and it's so fun.
And Laurell K. Hamilton, hello! Oh my God!
Right?
I am
so excited.
So excited for that.
Oh.
Like, I just think we have so many good presenters this year, and with Laurell K. Hamilton as the keynote on top of it, it's going to be such a good con. And I'm just really excited because I feel the same way you do, Courtney, which is like, there's a lot of work to pull it off. But it's something that like fills my cup. It's like, I feel so good afterwards and we all have such a good time. And I learn stuff every single year, because we have different people and their classes are spectacular. They're so
when
good.
When you have a class in a workshop that's called, Am I Cursed or Is It Just Gas? I mean, who is not going to have a good time? I'm just saying.
Oh my God, Diane, I'm so glad we're talking to her today. I've missed her. She's just so perfect.
I know.
She's just fantastic. But I mean, seriously, when that's the name of the workshop, I mean, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
It's pretty much baked in.
Oh, she's so fun. I love Diana. Like, it's really, she's great. And I think she's so knowledgeable and she's so fun to talk to. I'm very excited both to interview her, but also to have her at So Mote That Con.
I think as we are waiting to talk to her, I think it is time for a word for our sponsors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Kachina Aurora fans, get ready because our friend Dawn Hunt has now launched a new, drumroll, tomato sauce. Magical marinara, roasted garlic, pomodoro. Holy shit.
We got to try it. I made this incredible pasta dish for my husband. I throw some beef sausage in there, just regular old stuff from the grocery store, topped it with this sauce, threw it on some gluten-free pasta because I have the celiac. My husband did not stop talking about this. I'm serious. The rest of the night was oh my God, the sauce is so good. Oh my God, I am under Dawn's spell. Oh my God, I can't stop. I mean, the flavors sit with you. And like you just feel comforted and you feel loved and you really feel the magic that she puts in there and the high quality ingredients. I am actually serving that pasta dish with that sauce to my Italian mother-in-law when she's here next week. Okay, that is saying something, and I'm gonna do it.
I mean, it's so true. I finally got my hands on a jar and it was the best. Like, I was like, wow, I don't even need to touch anything. This is perfection in a jar. I mean, honestly, I love everything Dawn does, but I also really lean into the Cucina Aurora infused olive oils, which are not only incredible to put on food, but they are also each crafted with magical intention. So you've got a really good, ready to go, delicious food, as well as your spell work.
If you haven't tried her coffee yet, you need to get on it because she has different ones for each of the seasons. Not only that, but she also has different brews for the dark moon, half moon, and full moon. These are whole bean coffees with different spectrums of darkness and strength. They're almost as dark as my soul. They are so, so good.
To bring your own practice into the kitchen, go to cucinaaurora.com ASAP and use code WitchLife to get 10% off. That's code WitchLife for 10% off.
Do it, witches, and thank you to Cucina Aurora for being an episode sponsor.
We have gotten so hooked on wearing our Blessed Be jewelry. Their pieces are the kinds that become your wear everyday signature items. They are, because they're so delicate and discreet, they are broom closet friendly and they give your witchy jewelry, more of an upgrade, a special touch. It is very tasteful witchy jewelry that is perfect for your everyday wear. You can wear it in the conference room. No one's going to know, but you're going to know because you are magical. And it's made by witches. And Blessed Be Magic has got something for every witch, regardless of their status of being in or out of the closet.
I am freaking out and love their new anklet collections and sets that they have right now. They have a triple goddess anklet, a pentacle anklet, and they have a Hecate's wheel bracelet and anklet set, which, yes, I have in fact purchased. I absolutely love anklets in the summertime. There's just something about having pretty jewelry on your ankles when you're wearing your summer dresses and in short season. It's just spectacular.
Yes, that new collection is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, frankly, everything Blessed Be Magic does is gorgeous. I have a number of their pieces and I wear them regularly and always get complimented. They have over 700 plus 5-star reviews, like 700. That's insane. And they ship worldwide.
Yes, it is perfect. It's beautiful and magical. I wear my Hecate ring everywhere. You can step into your power with Blessed Be Magic's minimalist jewelry for powerful, witchy women.
Head over to blessedbemagic.com, that's magic with a K, and use WitchLife15, that's WitchLife15, and save 15% on all full-price talisman jewelry. Trust me, with as much shopping as you're about to do on this site, you're going to want that 15% off.
Thank you to Blessed Be Magic for being an episode sponsor. Literally everyone knows this podcast runs on blood, sweat, tears, and jasmine pearl tea. But now get ready, witches. Our beautiful friends at the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company have some new blends for this summer.
Oh my God. Seriously, everyone knows how obsessed I am with tea, and I am extra obsessed with Jasmine Pearl. Fortune's Fool, which is a pu'er tea for those looking for a more sophisticated tea, is insane. I am in love with it. Plus, it has pigs on the wrapper, which makes it extra amazing.
I need all of that tea.
They're insane. And everyone knows that coffee is my jam. One of the ways that you can get me to drink tea is when you have some sort of a mint tea. And the Northwest mint is absolutely fantastic. It's something that you can make in a large brew and you can put in your fridge so that you can drink it cold during hot months. And it is absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, and also the blackberry fig, which can be enjoyed either hot or iced. I mean, it's the end of the summer. Iced tea is still the thing, but the nights are getting cooler, and so this is a really great one to have around during the transition from summer to autumn. Also, you've got the equinox. It's a great herbal for this coming month and the change in the seasons, and it contains herbs that can be sometimes beneficial for those of us with uteruses.
You really, really need to go check out these teas at thejasminepearl.com. Save 10% with coupon coupon code WITCH2023. That's WITCH2023. And you get free shipping on orders over 35, so get those orders in.
Thank you so much to the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company for being an episode sponsor. Well, we are so excited, everyone, to be joined today by Diana Rajchel. Diana Rajchel is the author of Hex Twisting and Urban Magick, among other titles. She is the co-owner of California-based Golden Apple Metaphysical with Nikki Jobin and runs a spiritual consultancy in Kalamazoo, Michigan, with her partner, Synty Pelto-Boehm. She practices the art of magical urbanism and is an animimist, spirit worker, and community organizer. While she no longer follows an explicitly religious path, she has found that practicing love, respect, and honor holds up quite well. She specializes in solving problems that stump other practitioners or finding the person that can help, and in training empaths to live within their abilities and conditions with purpose. We are so excited you're here. You're always so much fun.
I hope I can live up to that today with as little caffeine as I have had.
Oh, no.
I feel you. I feel your pain. So what have you been up to in the last year since we talked to you last? How's your last year been?
Chaotic. I started with a Christmas Eve boiler fire that had me out of my project home for 3 months in the middle of winter. So that was fun. But it did end with several things that had been creating living issues being corrected. So it was like strategic misery for a very long-term gain. Because like we had a cast iron boiler that just started smoking. And,
oh, no.
Yeah, our insurance agent was really happy with us because we were one of the few people that didn't do something like put our Christmas tree by it. But this boiler, we had to have a water softener because of it. We also were stuck with radiant heat, so you boiled upstairs or you froze downstairs. And apparently that was the one thing that needed to go. Insurance was able to replace it. We even have proper air conditioning in the home now. And while we were out, because we were in one of the oldest streets in Kalamazoo, the city finally replaced some pipes that probably should have been replaced 20 years ago while we were out and didn't have to deal with the driveway being blocked. So it worked out strategically well, but I do not recommend long-term stay hotels with dogs ever again. So that's been the big thing this year. I am currently also working now on the Urban Magick workbook and finishing my 200-hour yoga teacher training. So
that's
fantastic. For you. That's awesome. Yeah. In between selling the condo and buying the house that I currently live in, we were in a hotel for about 2 months. Yeah. And it was a hot nightmare. So
oh my God,
it's hilarious because you still have to drive past it, like to go to certain places that I go. My son, it's been now almost 3 years. My son will still hiss at it as we go by.
Oh no.
Yeah, he wants no part of it. He's just, and it's like, he'll refer to it as that place. Do you remember, Mom? Do you remember when we stayed at that place? I mean, it's just, we were so done. We were so done by the time it was over. So I absolutely feel you with that.
Yeah, like we didn't have the worst experience, but there were efforts to make it a good experience. But I just have a permanent aversion to biscuits and gravy now because the free breakfast bar they had with the place was
you're like, I can't.
Yeah,
I can't. Yeah.
I hear you. That's crazy. So you were saying something about you're holding a pendulum. Tell us about this pendulum that you're holding. I'm fascinated.
Like, this is our third or fourth trying to shoot this prose show, right?
The gremlin trap.
I know, it's so good.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm the author of Hex Twisting is because people fucked around, and eventually I had to show them they would find out. So this thing that I'm playing with right now, because I felt some energy coming up right outside my window, because I'm like, I have a writing nook that looks over my property because I'm on, my house is also very quirky as it used to be an asphalt company. So I have the window that looks out what used to be the machine yard. And so when something decides to be a pain in the butt, it thinks it's a vulnerable spot, but it's really a good lookout. It's kind of like my lighthouse. So I felt something coming up. And so something that came from one of the fucker-ended finds out was somebody tried using a double pendulum. Now my partner explains it far better than I do, but so you've got your basic pendulum here, so this one thing, but this other thing that swings on the end and I'm showing it to you, and I know that people listening at home won't be able to see this. And no, I'm not going to put this on social media. Thank you. But this, when you swing with this one, the first part, perfectly predictable. The second part, it is scientifically impossible to figure out its pattern or which way it's going to go or what it's going to impact. So it's kind of handy when I'm feeling some disruptive gremlin energy coming up, because now the gremlins are either having a very good time or a bad time, and that is not my problem.
It busts up that energy a little bit, yeah?
It busted up so much that they can't recover.
Yeah.
I think, Diana, that I learned this from your book, was that if you feel like goblins or something close by, you have to shout at them like some kind of ridiculous thing, such as the price of rice in China is the color blue.
Yep. This doesn't feel like a Fae thing to me, and usually the Fae try not to annoy me.
Right.
But gremlins are a little bit different from goblins in my experience, in that they like machines and get along with metal. So whatever they are, not quite the same thing. So usually just coming at them swinging is enough, because most people just kind of freeze up around them. But goblins are very easy to confuse. Just think of them at, like, the best way to practice that is think of like whoever you know who's way too into an MLM and the most bizarre and confusing excuses so they never come and find you again. Like, just think you're practicing on MLM marketers. That's perfect for goblins. Same structure, really.
You know, that exercise, like, absolutely kept my niece and nephew so enraptured and entertained when I was babysitting them one night, because we watched Sleeping Beauty and they saw the goblins, and you know, they're at this age where they're very rational. They want to find out the truth. Like, is that real? Is that? And, you know, a lot of times they want to know what's behind it, but they love, we were talking about this just before you came on, the just in case. And so I taught them, I said, hey, do you guys know how to get rid of a goblin? And I would say things. And then one of the things they said, 2 + 2 = banana, you know, and we're doing that all night long. And so then it was very funny because they went to bed and were reading in bed, and I crept upstairs, and of course I went, ooh, I'm a goblin. And I just heard them just like with this resigned, just go, the price of bananas in Connecticut is number 3 and it's blue. Just like so irritated, like, yeah, cocoa. And then I'm like, oh, just kidding. That's me. Like, we know, but yeah, all night long they were coming up with how like, you know, getting rid of goblin riddles. It was fantastic.
See, that's really fun. That is a fun exercise. So most days I'm just too, like, I have like 1 or 2 like out of pocket things, but I tend to be pretty out of pocket anyway, so I don't worry about it until I need it. But it comes in handy. Being out of pocket may be one of my best defense tools.
I like that.
Sometimes it helps to be unpredictable.
Yes.
I mean, confusing people into submission is a legitimate way of handling yourself.
100%. Yes. 100%. I could not agree more.
So I think it's cool that you kind of started talking about all this stuff, because I think that when it comes to hexing and some of the stuff that you're talking about, they already kind of have these opinions of hexing being something that's not okay and not something you're supposed to be doing. And it has this kind of very negative connotation attached to it. Mm-hmm. How do you explain hexing to people in a way that they can understand, and how it works into a magical practice?
So it depends on the person, because sometimes you do unfortunately have to break their brains by walking them through how things they insist are not dogma are dogma. But usually the way I'll frame it, like very early in my practice, there was an Australian practitioner I was pen pals with who pointed out to me that what's good for the lion is bad for the gazelle. There's a lot of things that look like hexes that people fully believe are protections or will rationalize are protections. And so there's a lot of people throwing stuff out there, and either they're rationalizing it or they're just not admitting what they're really doing. The other part that I find comes up a lot, especially with people that, like, I came up in 90s Wicca, and if you heard a lot of us at that time, you'd think that was the only witchcraft in the world. And I think we know now that is so not true. And it is not the answer to all of it. And when you get into American folkloric traditions, when you get into indigenous traditions, when you get into slave succeeded traditions, you had to hex a bitch or you were not going to live. And so it came down to and so a lot of people have the idea that if you do this, it is evil and and it is against what we think is right and good. And when you get them to drill down, it usually comes back to Christian programming, if not Christian trauma. And there are other people from the American folkloric traditions are either completely indigenous outside of the frame of anything that most of the white-centered practices have even been educated about at all, where it is, I'm an animimist. It is more of a good for the lion, bad for the gazelle type thing, where it is okay, we're in survival mode. But it is also, for example, in some of the ATRs especially, well, they had to grab Christianity as a mask and subvert it to create a functioning system. So, and again, what it came down to is, yes, it was hexing, but they were protecting themselves. And so getting people into this understanding that, hey, those protections you send, if you're protecting against, those can operate as a hex. Or it's okay, I'm going to do something while I'm mad. Well, what do you think's going to happen if you're just like making a little energy ball and throwing it while you're mad? It goes somewhere. Energy, there's no such thing as a way. So when you banish whatever, it still goes somewhere. I will say that the majority of people are not hexed or cursed. When I have people come to me in their client work, when I'm doing my client work with people and things are going horribly wrong, about 90% of things I would see as ancestral curses where an ancestor was either an ancestor failing to keep an agreement or trying too hard to protect their descendants without any conception that what was socially acceptable would completely change about every 10 to 15 years. So hundreds of years of the same problem over something that only made sense in the context at one time. So folks, the lesson out there should be don't make decisions for your grandkids. It is a bad idea. The other one is a lot of people will think they have run afoul of demons or evil spirits, or also think they are cursed when they are being haunted. And most of that comes down to maintaining and defining boundaries and people not keeping their promises. And there does seem to be a lower inclination towards genuine honor practices these days. And I think, again, I'm a Gen Xer. I was around for 9/11. I was around for when airports were fun places to go in the middle of the night because there's nothing else to do and it was like a mall, which you cannot do anymore. And the polarity shift was literally overnight with these extremes, but it was also if you're not part of my in-group, then I don't need to have any honor towards you. And I've been seeing more and more of that over the decades. And I'm getting towards 50, and it's making me pretty sad to see that because there is so much outgrouping and so much sectioning off that, yeah, magical warfare kind of sort of is going to be part of it because of the way we get up in our own heads and the way most of our relationships are becoming parasocial. So that was a weird wander from that question. Sorry about that.
No, it makes perfect. It makes sense because you're describing, like you said, you're just trying to get people to get out of their own preconceived notions and realize that the world is not, black and white, and the world is always changing, and things are always changing, and practices are always changing. And just because maybe, at this point it was thought to be this way, you go to a different point in time and this was a life or death survival skill that people utilized. So, it's just about opening your mind and understanding that it is just a part of magical practice. And while it should be used, appropriately, it can very much be a tool in your magical practice.
Yeah, and what you're going to do when, let's say, the Gestapo have marched into your city is very, very different from when people are just walking through holding rude signs. Like what is needed and what is called for is completely different. And I think a lot of people have lost that sense of scale or just have never been in a situation where they've needed to have it.
I like that. What is needed and what is called for could be different. I like that.
I agree. And I like that also talking about, it's the whole kind of concept of like the punishment should fit the crime, right? Like not everything needs an extreme, you don't do an extreme hex for someone that did something that was, an annoyance, right? A slight annoyance. You use certain degrees of things depending on, the danger level or the behavior level of the person. And it's not a one size fits all type of situation.
No, and sometimes it is have you checked yourself first? There's a difference between being annoyed, harmed, offended, and someone who is actively promoting something dangerous. Right. And so, I annoy and
make these decisions when you're hungry is what you're saying.
Yes.
I have to do that with myself all the time when I start to feel the rage build, and all I want to do is just lose my ever-loving mind. I have to ask myself, when is the last time you ate? Because if it was 8 hours ago, perhaps whatever's happening is not as bad as you think it is. You're just insane right now.
That is my life.
If I am still mad after a piece of cheese and a nap, then there's something going on.
Then I'm actually mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be like, why am I so irritated? And it's like, you have not eaten in 12 hours. What is wrong with you?
There are days where something gets into me and I will want to make an internet troll cry.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's fair.
Yeah, it's a little too easy today because they're the internet trolls are shrinking down to maybe one or two demographics at best. And it's all the same insults. So I'm like, okay, you clearly did not get enough love from someone, and that is not anybody's problem but yours. And
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So what are some common misunderstandings that people have about hexes that you're constantly kind of having to re-explain to people?
Oh my God, probably so many, right?
There are a lot. I mean, granted, the circles I travel in, I don't have to have these conversations a lot, and more of them are along the, oh crap, I'm cursed. And so there is some crossover. There will be other books for me, especially about spirit identification in the field and other things, because there's a lot of overlap with all of these different aspects, and there's overlap with urban magic too. So one of the big things that I see the most is people confusing an animistic spirit that is justifiably pissed off at them for a demon. And that will feel like a curse.
Oh.
All kinds of things can go wrong around your house, because guess what your house is made up of originally? So, I had a minor, I wouldn't call it a tiff. It was more of a genuine misunderstanding between me and a water spirit I work with. And she's nice to me. My house could have been destroyed, but I had to deal with 2 leaks in the last 2 days. Both of which were repaired for free and fairly easily repaired, but it was we're going to have this talk now. And it could have looked like a curse, and the energy can feel very similar to a cursing when an animistic spirit is mad. But just because something isn't behaving the way you want it to doesn't mean it's a demon. And, that goes into yes, I have encountered demons. I do believe demons are real, and they are not what they have been advertised to be. I do not believe that they should be worked with casually ever. But they tend to be a little bit more honor bound than some other things that people work with all the time and don't even think twice about it. So one of the bigger ones actually is a mundane issue. When I was living in San Francisco's had such a problem with spiritual fraud, they have had to issue police advisories about it. And they now require anyone doing any kind of fortune telling to get, I think the last I looked, it was a $200 license, and the price may have gone up since the pandemic. But if you're doing any kind of card reading, if you have any kind of shop at all, you're expected to go to the city hall and get fingerprinted and get registered if you're doing that, which is not typical for most of the professions there, because there will be people that will walk up to people at gas stations and go, oh, your aura is so bad, you need to come see me, or you need to sit for this reading. And
people are super, I've gotten this cold messages on the internet before where people are like, I sense that there's some disturbance. Pay me to fix it for you. I'm like, okay, listen.
Oh my God. And people have used I'm sure, Diana, you've had this as well. People have tried to create imposter accounts. And most people who follow me have figured this out. But I had a bunch of new friends follow me from a writing conference I attended. And most of them don't run in these circles. And they were the ones that were writing me saying, did you just send me this? I'm like, nope. Give this person none of your money.
Yeah, do not.
I've had a few of those. There was one where I started screenshotting the person who's pretending to be me and posting it on my social media pages. And one of them made the mistake of trying to threaten me into taking it down. And I just sat back and let my protections take care of it and watched this person beg for things to stop in real time. So
you're watching it unfold.
Yeah, like I actually was away from the internet for a couple of days. I had some stuff going on. So, like in San Francisco, you have to deal with these people in person. So when they threaten you, there's a little more to worry about. But I'm roughly the size of a football player. So most people don't think to try me anyway. But I was watching, and I'm not sure what exactly happened because sometimes I just don't need to know. I'm just like, here is the energy in motion. Just fit in as is appropriate, and I will stand back. And I had ignored it. I was like going on with my life, and I came back because I just found it in my Facebook business page, and it was like, and it ended with, please, I don't want this. I hadn't been responding. I don't know what she didn't want, but that was done pretty quick. So yeah, don't steal my photo. It ends poorly.
I like how in the beginning, one of the things you talked about is, and it's one of the reasons I love the phrase fuck around and find out, is you had talked about, what do people think when they are putting this energy out there? Like, where do you think it goes? Like, it's going to go after, and it's going to find, this person or this situation or whatever. And depending on, depending on your passion level at the time, depending on, your practice, your things like this. I had someone in my life who you could say wronged me probably more than anyone has ever wronged me before.
Oh yeah, I was about to interrupt and say, you could say this person, I was like, sucked, blew.
Yeah, well,
horrible,
to put it mildly. Probably you could arguably say this person wronged me more than anyone has ever wronged me. And at no point did I sit down and think, nor would I necessarily sit down and think, I want harm to come to this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was angry and I was devastated, and I wanted this person to never be near me again and to never have to deal with this person again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just over all of it. And this person lost 3 jobs in 6 months,
mm-hmm.
and ended up having to find a new job 2.5 hours away,
mm-hmm.
where they still live, because we were in the same town. Right. So we and would occasionally run into each other in town before this whole debacle unfolded. And that has never happened.
And we just figured out, Kanani, that we realized, oh my God, this person is now had to be banished 2.5 hours away. It is now in the same small town as the ex, whom they have an absolutely horrendous history and relationship. So this person probably can't even go to the grocery store and look up because they might run into their like caustic relationship ex. It's look at Diana's face.
Diana just says for them. I love it for them.
It's the whole concept, right? Fuck around and find out.
Funny.
You don't want to. And like I said, this was not concocted by something that I was like, this is what I want to happen. This is exactly what I want to happen. It's just when you fuck around with someone that, works magic and that the universe listens to and that the universe taps into and is trying to protect, and you have wronged that person, there are consequences for that.
So something about my partner, because they terrify people that think that I'm a sweetheart, but they're a shaman, so their way of working is very, very different from what I do. And it is very law of the jungle, but they also do, because they have this really strict honor code for themselves that they've had ever since their first child was born. And they kind of made the comment, because I am the first partner they've had besides one other person where there's some kind of emotional regulation. So a lot of people will read my book and think, oh, I must be angry and throw shit at people all the time. But like they made the comment, because they were kind of waiting to see that side of me, is that I only can't let go of anger or can't laugh it off when there's real injustice underneath it somewhere. when it is something so deeply unfair that I can't let go of it. And sadly, I am a femme person living in the world we live in. Of course, I have experienced this, as has probably every single person present right now. And one of the things I did find is that when you reach into that deep, angry part of you, especially when it is someone who's in a personal relationship, someone who has, made plans with you, made some kind of agreement with you, and then just violated it, the universe really goes after them. Kind of Mae West is like one of my pop culture icons in my head. Like, she's like on my mental glam altar with Janelle Monáe and Freddie Mercury and Prince. And one of the best quotes from her was, "Time wounds all heals," which is kind of one of my secret mottos. And I will sometimes tap into that energy. And the first time I did, and it wasn't entirely conscious, I was about 20 years old. And I had an ex-boyfriend who did all of the, looking back, it was just basically Misogyny Geek Fest before it was known Misogyny Geek Fest was a thing. And I got so angry, and I was emailing him, and I wrote, "I hope you die alone." And I still, have circles that cross his, and he had one somewhat abortive relationship after me, and he has not been able to date since, and it's been almost 30 years. And at one point I felt bad for him and tried to undo it. And the goddess that I went to for assistance went, "Nah, we're leaving this." Because apparently that was just one way to take him off the board and prevent more injustice, so she was saving work for herself.
Yeah, she was just like, this guy is just going to do more harm later, so let's just not.
Yeah, I got overruled in that one. And, at the time, I felt bad because, of course, I was in that. A lot of women have to mature out of that. I want people to like me. I want people to think I'm a good person. And then you go through there is no winning. And then you realize there's no winning. This can be very freeing. And so, now I'm on the other side. I'm like, okay, I do see this wisdom. But at the time, I was kind of horrified. And now I'm like, okay, apparently I just kind of did the universe a favor on that one. So sorry, not sorry.
You're like,
yep.
Sorry about it, but not really.
Yeah.
I will have to say that experience brought me, I don't want to say it was surprising to me, but I want to say that it's one of those things where I realized after that, because I'm one of those people where I'm like, if you've wronged me, you're now just dead to me. I'm not going to think about you. I'm not going to speak ill of you. I'm not going to talk bad about you. If your name came up, I'm going to pretend like I don't even know who you were. You know what I mean? That's where you're at with me from then on. And so I've never been someone who necessarily kind of actively would go after people. And so there was a little bit of kind of guilt-free joy that I got to know, that it's I don't have to. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't have to concoct some vengeful spell. I don't have to, worry about whether or not, they're going to get what they deserve or, wonder, are they never going to learn a lesson? I can literally know and feel rest assured that they will learn a lesson, that there will be repercussions for what they do, that the repercussions will be in line, right? With, like you said, with the wrong that was done. And I don't even have to worry about it. Yep. And so I feel like I do, if I feel like someone's coming after me, I feel like in the past I've done kind of a lot of kind of mirror type reflection magic, things like that. But there is a certain, when you are a witch and you do get really into your practice and you really start to see the things that are happening, there is a very, there's definitely a guilty pleasure moment when you realize.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I'm getting to the side of life where witchcraft is affordable and relatively low maintenance, and restraining orders get expensive and can be very hard to get people to maintain properly.
That's phenomenal.
That is phenomenal.
1,000%. 1,000%. Is there any time that you think that a hex would be a really bad idea or could really backfire? Maybe it seemed like a good idea, but these are not the things you hex for.
Most of the time. Actually, the majority of the time I advise against hexing. And I will be teaching classes at future conventions on being more strategic with spell casting and like setting your impact for this reason, and reading for not just people think intention is everything. I disagree with that, because intention plus impact is how you have more control over your results. And if you're not looking for the impact, so believe me, there are some people in my life where, especially when it comes to my kids, where I would love to hex them, but this would impact my children terribly. And so it's okay, I might get the ego high from it, but the big picture, the people that I want to protect would get hurt. And the majority of the time, that is how hexing works. Also, my partner's Finnish, I'm Polish, we're stubborn fucks. So hexing, throwing at us is always a bad idea, because we just get madder and learn how to reverse engineer everything. We've become the Stay Puft Marshmallow Men of the occult scene, just because we only get larger and scarier the more you throw energy at us. And I don't think that's necessarily healthy. And it's have you looked at the impacts? And so I would say, even in specific cases where you are dealing with somebody who is a sociopath that is really doing harm, you have to be very careful how you go about it. And I ominously usually recommend, instead of hexing and taking on that energy yourself, that you do form spirit allies that can take care of it in ways you can't even imagine. So, this is one of the reasons I'm an animimist is, it's very handy to have very large best friends. And they tend to have a better perspective on who needs to stick around and who doesn't.
As well as, I would say, like in my circumstance, like I said, I never would have thought of that, right? That's not something I would have thought of to happen. And I also do feel like, I think when you leave it up to, help and the spirits and stuff that you work with, they're also going to have a much better gauge of, like you said, the crime meeting the consequence, right? The punishment fitting the crime, as opposed to something you may do because of, in the moment, how you're feeling, how overwhelming it is for you or whatnot. You might really take it too far, which can then bounce back at you.
And I won't deny there's some therapeutic value in letting that go, like into lashing out and letting the energy go somewhere. So, like for me, I have some significant wrath that builds up sometimes, and I can't just throw it because I'm mad. I'm kind of buff that way now, so I have to be worried about who I'm going to hurt. So you can either take that energy and store it. You can take that energy and give it to a justice spirit, or to an ancestor that is healed enough to do justice work on your behalf. I have taken my wrath energy and sold it a few times to different spirits that could use it. Or what I will do is, if I am completely worked up, I am past the hangry, I've had the nap, I am still beyond rage, is I will go ahead and work up that energy and then tell it to go somewhere where that energy will be healthy and helpful. So this way it's out of my body, but if there is someone in the world who needs to get mad to get out of a bad situation, then there it goes, and it goes where it needs to go. So just connecting to that universal organism that is Gaia, and, usually going down the women's network of who needs help when.
I really appreciate you saying that, Diana, and also mentioning what I haven't told the story on the podcast, and I know we're getting close to the end, so I'll keep it real short. But I only a couple of times, I'd say since I got out of the 8th grade, have I been so angry that I've been shaking. And one of those times was quite a long time ago, like well over 15 years ago, and I was very, very angry. And I did send out a curse. I was sending it out because I was heartbroken, and was just in heartbreak. Anger is just, it's
rough. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it's really rough. And and I felt something leave me, and I knew where it went. And it's been like years later, like probably 3-4 years later, whatever spirits were making it work came back like all sweaty, like, okay, we're still working on this. So I think next we're going to go for them here. And I went, whoa, actually, you know what? Let's not do that anymore. And they're like, no, we got to finish the job. And so there had been so many rituals and so journeys that I had to go in and go, like literally I've had, recurring dreams of being in a shit-filled, leaky public restroom beneath a gymnasium that's covered with like the doors are ripped off and the inside is graffiti. It's like a disgusting place. And I'm in there mopping and cleaning it like, am I still cleaning this up? Am I still cleaning this up? And I know what that's about. And so I'm still doing repair on it, work on it years later from just that one afternoon when I sat down. And I've done spell like rituals. I'm just like, I want to stop little things. And most of it is cleaned up now. Mm-hmm. But it took years from just one instance when I was so angry and full of magic and rage and heartbreak that I sent this. And then I'm like, years later, I'm like, scumbag, stop. I don't know.
That can definitely be a thing. And this is one of the reasons why people should learn spell breakers early in their practice. And sometimes, and again, sometimes it is worth going to a deity of judgment and justice, because this way you don't have to completely spend the time mopping the bathroom.
Exactly. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Exactly.
Like,
that is a good
usually
point.
If somebody has hurt you that badly, they need to be sharing that mop somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we are so excited because you're going to be joining us this year at So Mote That Con, and you are teaching a workshop which is amazingly called "Am I Cursed or Is It Just Gas?" So, can you kind of fill everybody in? It's the best. It's the best name ever. I mean, let's just get it out there. Can you let people know what to expect from that class?
Absolutely. I've taught it a couple of times, and so it does go through discerning whether you're dealing with a curse, whether you're dealing with a haunting, whether you're dealing with a broken oath, because that's been coming up a lot lately, and looking for simple to more complex ways of resolving the issues. So, and of course, there's a certain point where, okay, this is the point where you need to call either me or someone like me. But it's like it has to get to X extreme before you need external help. So most of it's okay, here are some ways to clean it up. Here are some ways to identify what's going on before I act. And it starts with the super basic. Is sage not working for you? Since that's still people's go-to, whether they're using garden sage or other versions. And so are your typical cleansing methods not working for you? Okay, now let's go through this and go through these questions to ask and go through these observations to make to see what's going on. So it's more getting people to think about the process of dissecting negative energy rather than just reacting to it in a rote way that is kind of being taught right now. So, because it's not as simple. A lot of the stuff is not as simple as just banishing and cleansing and warding. And there are less recognized.
And also, like you said, though, sometimes it's also not the complicated thing that you were worried that it was.
Exactly. And so if you go through the basics and you still have it, so it's the process of elimination first.
I think that's going to be such a good class. I mean, because I think it's such an important thing to know how to determine, right? Like I think that sometimes it's like I think sometimes we're very quick to be like, oh, someone has cursed me or hexed me or done, it's like this, someone has cursed me. And I'm like, okay, well, I think people are confused. Like, as you said, I think people are confused by how frequent of a thing that is. Like, I think people think that, like, I'm like, look, if you and all 75 of your friends think you're cursed, like something is not right. Like, it's like, that is not.
And if 75 of your friends think you're cursed, then let's look at about 35 of them for what you did to tick them off.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, but I think that's such a, when we're working with different energies and different people and, especially if you're the type of person that sometimes ruffles people's feathers, or, you don't back down or stand down to people who suck, like you can be the target for crappy energy, but that doesn't necessarily mean, like, I think it's important to have practical skills and not just go, well, I'm cursed. That's the problem. Like, it's like, well, let's take a look at all I think you need to break it down. Like, why am I feeling this way? What things have I, what things, what are impacting factors? Like,
Yeah, whenever I have a client session, I always start with okay, these are questions that I have to add. These are due diligence questions. Have you sought mental health support? Do you have any medical issues? You don't need to disclose them to me, but could they be a factor here?
Right. Because sometimes we forget the practical. It's like, I was saying earlier, sometimes in our intro, I was saying, sometimes you forget the magic side of it when you're in it, because you kind of are like being overly practical and you're like, oh, actually, I can harness my magic for this. And on the flip side, sometimes you can, forget that yeah, there's also a lot of practical steps that have nothing to do with magic or your practice or energy or curses or anybody else, that might just be looking at why do I feel off? Is there something going on mentally, physically, am I tired? What are the factors? Because I don't think they're all always, related to your magical practice. I think sometimes they're just, I feel off today because I'm, my health isn't great, or whatever the heck, whatever it is.
Yeah. And having little checklists and things to ground you can really help with that. So
agree. I'm really excited.
I'm still playing with my pendulum, but you seem to be doing better.
Yeah. I know. Thank you for helping keep the peace and technology going, clearly.
Yep.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Diana. I cannot wait for this workshop. I am so excited. It's one of those workshops that I think is very informative for people. And I feel like it's something that I think really helps people to, I like how you talk about it. I like the way that you really break it down for people to help them to understand how it can be incorporated into your magical practice, as far as, differentiating, like you said, the difference between all these things, how to work with these things.
Yes.
And, just how to work this into your practice and understand the differences and all the complexities that come with having a magical practice, and not jump to conclusions. There's a reason you don't Google your symptoms when you're sick, right? You probably don't have brain cancer, you probably haven't been cursed, but let's look at what these things could be. And then let's look at the tools that we have to be able to address these things. So I'm really excited for your workshop. I can't thank you enough for joining us and for joining us for So Mote That Con. And we'll talk to everybody next week. I'm so excited.
Yay, we're so excited.
Bye, I'll see you at So Mote That Con, Diana.
We'll see you there. I'm super excited.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to That Witch Life podcast. Our music is by Dustin Schultz, editing by Corey Drake. If you like what we do, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the show, you can buy us a coffee or check out our merch on our Etsy store, or join us on Patreon for bonus content, ad-free episodes, or to join our Witch Squad. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For show notes, audio transcript, or to ask us a question to answer on a future episode, go to thatwitchlife.com. Until then, keep moting that shit. We will talk to you next week.
So mote it be.